Good morning. Welcome in. Glad you're here this morning. It, Joey, welcome in. It's December the 22nd, 2024. We're going to be in Proverbs 22. That syncs up with the day of the month. Let's look at Proverbs 22, verse 1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. The note there on verse 1 says self-worth is more important than net worth. It is better to have a good name and reputation than to be a millionaire. All right, verse 2. The rich and the poor have, hey, Christy Betts, welcome in. Verse 2. The rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord, hang on, I got too much movement here this morning. There we go. The rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Boy. Verse 4. By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. Thorns, snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his soul will be far from them. Verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Is it just verse 6? It is. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Note on verse 6 says the word for train up comes from the Hebrew word that describes the palate or roof of the mouth. In order to stimulate a newborn's sucking reflex, Hebrew midwives would put something sweet on their finger and rub it on the roof of an infant's mouth in order to train up their nourishing instincts. Likewise, a wise parent is one who uses incentives to stimulate and train up his children toward godliness, creating a hunger in him for righteousness and wise living. Just as an infant never loses that ability to suckle, so a child will not forget the instincts toward godliness which are stimulated in him as a child. That's good stuff. See, my cursor's in the wrong spot, covering up my chat. Verse 7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Verse 7 also has a note, and it says, the lender always holds power over the borrower. For this reason, it is better to avoid taking out large loans as much as possible. A loan can easily become a form of bondage. It definitely can. I've been there. He who sows iniquity will reap sorrow, and the rod of his anger will fail. He who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. Cast out the scoffer, and contention will leave. Yes, strife and reproach will cease. He who loves purity of heart and has grace on his lips, the king will be his friend. The eyes of the Lord preserve knowledge, but he overthrows the words of the faithless. Verse 13. The lazy man says, there is a lion outside, I shall be slain in the streets. Note on verse 13 says, a lazy person will make all kinds of excuses to avoid responsibility, never realizing how foolish his or her words and conduct appear to others. Verse 14, the mouth of an immoral woman is a deep pit. He who is abhorred by the Lord will fall there. Verse 15, foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. And verse 15 has a note that says, foolishness comes with being a child. Thus, parents need to correct children not only because discipline purges wrong conduct from a child's life, but because it points them in the right direction, the way of wisdom. Correction in this context includes teaching children to distinguish between right and wrong and may sometimes involve corporal punishment. Boy, I guarantee you, got my share of corporal punishment, and I deserved every bit of it. I was rotten to the core when I was young. And I say that, I took some licks one time at school from a teacher that over something that I didn't do, because the guy that did do it convinced me they would expel him and he'd have all kinds of trouble. So I stepped up, and yeah, that turned out to be a pretty bad deal all the way around. Verse 16, he who oppresses the poor to increase his riches, and he who gives to the rich will surely come to poverty. Incline your ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply your heart to my knowledge. For it is a pleasant thing if you keep them within you. Let them all be fixed upon your lips, so that your trust may be in the Lord. I have instructed you today, even you have I not written to you excellent things of counsels and knowledge, that I may make you know that certainty of the words of truth, that you may answer words of truth to those who send to you. Do not rob the poor because he is poor, nor oppress the afflicted at the gate, for the Lord will plead their cases and plunder the soul of those who plunder them. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man do not go, lest ye learn his ways and set a snare for your soul. Do not be one of those who shakes hands in a pledge, one of those who is surety for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should he take away your bed from under you? Verse 28. Do not remove the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. And verse 28's note says, landmarks were stone pillars or piles of stones that marked property boundaries in the fields. Moving them resulted in individual loss or gain of property and wealth. Since God owned and appointed all the land, removing an ancient landmark would have been a sin against God. One verse left, verse 29. Do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. All right, that wraps up the chapter, but I have a section called Tough Questions, and it says, does this verse guarantee that good parenting will produce great children? And it's talking about verse 6 in this chapter. So let's go back to verse 6. If I can get back there. Verse 6. The verse says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, this Tough Questions says no. All right, I'm going to ask the question again. Does this verse guarantee that good parenting will produce great children? And the answer is no. Godly parents can have children who go astray. Conversely, the children of terrible parents can overcome their upbringing and turn out great. Some parents, interpreting this verse as a promise, have tried to very carefully train up their children in the way they should go, only to see those children stray from that godly training. A proverb is not a promise, it is a literary device that highlights a general truth. Many of the proverbs in this book are not absolute guarantees, because the truth they express must be conditioned by prevailing circumstances. Proverbs are generally and usually true, but occasionally exceptions may be noted. When children from Christian homes go astray, their parents often carry a load of guilt and self recrimination. What should I have done differently? Where could I have done better? But each person is responsible before God for his or her actions, our adult children included. So that is good stuff. The redneck weather's done. Let's jump over to Ephesians chapter 6, and starting in verse 10, we'll get our armor on, y'all. It says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on your breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints, and for me, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mysteries of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. And that wraps that up this morning. We've got the Word of God in us. We've got our armor on, and we are ready to face our day. So I am, and I said it yesterday. I think everybody was in here yesterday too. I will be pre-recording from Christmas morning through New Year's Day and posting those, just because the internet speed where we're going to be in Alaska is not very fast. It's not fast enough to do a live, so we're going to pre-record those and have those out there for you. I will tell you, January the 1st is new. Christmas Day is not a proverb. So check those out. We'll start something new January the 1st. That's what I mean. We're not just going to be back in Proverbs again. We're going to attempt to read through the Bible in a year. Even children have free will. They will always remember their training. Yes, you're exactly right, Joey. Christmas, I did a little deal on the Christmas story instead of the proverb. And then New Year's Day, we're going to start reading through the Bible in a year. So hope y'all join me. And everything from, tomorrow and Tuesday, I'll be live again. So I'm live 2 more days, and then everything from there through New Year's Day will be pre-recorded, and I'll post it. So love you guys. Challenge y'all to go be a blessing for someone else today. God bless y'all, and we will see you again in the morning.